New King James Version, and in the King James Version it reads, God was manifested in the flesh. Yet in the New American Standard Bible, and in many others, it reads, He who was revealed in the flesh, or manifested in the flesh. One reading is original, while the other is corrupted. Let's go through some things and we'll find out which is which. This is Codex Alexandrinus. Here we have 1 Timothy 3:16, and here we have 1 Timothy 4:3. Let's zoom in. Now, notice the difference between the two. A theta is supposed to have a line through it. This instead has a smear through it. And this is modern ink. This is the bleed through from the other side of the page of the codex. It's the bleed through. It's not a theta, rather it's an Omicron sigma with a modern line, modern ink. Chegalis writes, the ink in which this has been done in Alexandrinus is sufficiently modern and black to declare its recent application. Thus, for 1 Timothy chapter 3, verse 16, we have Codex Sinaiticus, 4th century, who was manifested. Codex Alexandrinus, 4th century, who was manifested. Codex Ephraemi Receptus, 4th century, who was manifested. Codex Clementrinus, 5th century, which was manifested. The Coptic, Epidoctic, Gothic, Peshitta, Sahidic, various dates, which was manifested. So look at all this manuscript evidence for the reading which or who was manifested in the flesh. Not one of these texts say God was manifested in the flesh. We turn to Bar G. Ehrman, Misquoting Jesus book, page 112. He writes, John Jane Winston, one of the most controversial figures in ranks of biblical scholarship in the 18th century, was J.J. Winston. At a young age, Winston became enthralled with the question of the text of the New Testament and its manifold variants, and pursued the subject in his early studies. The day after his 20th birthday, on March 17, 1713, he presented his thesis at the University of Basel on the variety of readings in the text of the New Testament. Among other things, the Protestant Winston argued that variant readings can have no weakening effect on the trustworthiness or integrity of the Scriptures. The reason? God has bestowed this book once and for all on the world as an instrument for the perfection of human character. It contains all that is necessary to salvation, both for belief and conduct. Thus, variant readings may affect minor points in Scripture, but the basic message remains intact no matter which reading one notices. In 1715, Winston went to England as part of a literary tour and was given full access to Codex Alexandrinus. One portion of the scripture particularly caught Winston's attention. It was one of those tiny matters with erroneous applications. It involved the text of a key passage in the book of 1 Timothy. The passage in question, 1 Timothy chapter 3 verse 16, had long been used by advocates of Orthodox theology to support the view that the New Testament itself calls Jesus God. For the text in most manuscripts refers to Christ as God made manifest in the flesh and justified in the Spirit. As I pointed out in chapter 3, most manuscripts abbreviate sacred names, the so-called Menia Scarza, and that is the case here as well, where the Greek word God is abbreviated in two letters, theta sigma with a line drawn over the top to indicate that it is an abbreviation. What Winston noticed in examining Codex Alexandrinus was that the line over the top had been drawn in a different ink from the surrounding words, and so appeared to be from a later hand, i.e., written by a later scribe. Moreover, the horizontal line in the middle of the first letter, omicron, which appears to be a theta, was not accurately a part of the letter, but was a line that had bled through from the other side of the old volume. In other words, rather than being abbreviation theta sigma for God, the word was actually an omicron and a sigma, a different word altogether, which simply means who. The original reading of the manuscript thus did not speak of Christ as God made manifest in the flesh, but of Christ who was made manifest in the flesh. According to the ancient testimony of Codex Alexandrinus, Christ is no longer explicitly called God in this passage. Thus, the original reading is that which you find in the New American Standard Bible, who was manifested in the flesh.